So when's the new game? Looking back, I just realized I haven't put out anything for Season 7 of the game. I've more or less been focusing on other stuff, but still have been playing the game in the background. And to complete the story that is me covering the game since Season 3 on YouTube, I would like to make this video. A review, you may say, of Battlefield 2042 Season 7 Turning Point. It's a bit of a mess, as clearly they were told to wrap everything up, and DICE scrambled to just finish anything they had in hand, to the point they even released stuff that was scrapped from previous seasons. And in classic DICE fashion, teasing what could have been made if the game continued. So I guess now is the time to finally put this game to rest until I make my 2-hour review of the entire game's lifespan later. And with EA already throwing the game under the bus, I still have a lot to say about this title and the franchise moving forward. But before we start speculating on the future, let's keep talking shit about the current title one last time. Turning Point has one new map and one reused location. The marketing of the season kept emphasizing 2 maps, but once we found out what the second map was going to be, the community collectively was disappointed. Not at the fact that it's 2 maps, but the marketing misled everyone to believe these 2 were brand new maps. But you gotta love dumb technicalities, I guess. Season 7 brings us Haven, a village in Costa Rica, and following the trend of this game that it's nowhere near civilization, but out in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. For lore reasons, Haven is home to one of the world's largest subterranean reservoirs, which of course is a topic of conflict for 2 factions that want the resource advantage. The map itself is not a direct one-to-one to a previous map, but just like Redacted and Reclaim, you can feel the inspirations here and there as you play. Haven in its development had 3 maps that it looked to take inspiration from. Those maps were Erica Harbor from Bad Company 2, Amiens from Battlefield 1, and a cult favorite as I jingle this information over the heads of veterans of the franchise, Strike at Karkan from Battlefield 2, all being blended up to give us this little blemish to the game's reputation that is called Haven. Look how cool it is. For the first, I want to say, week of the map coming out, I'm not going to lie, but I really love the map. This was the closest we've ever gotten to urban warfare in the game's life cycle, besides the maps at launch. But instead of Oblak to play around in, this little self-sustained village out in the sand dunes of Costa Rica. And then it struck me on the side of my head that this map was just not fun to play for more than a couple of games at a time. Haven is a close quarter 5-flag town on a map that seemingly has 3 layers of verticality that has a good flow from each section to the next. It comes in a very great size, and it does something that I wish more maps in the game did, and limit your selection of vehicles on the map, which, to be fair, is something that they did try to implement, but it feels like they didn't fully want to commit to that idea due to how these maps are designed, I guess. The only things you can use on the map are heavy armor, so the Tor, Rams, main battle tanks are in play, while in the air the only thing you get to use are the little birds, which gives you enough destructive power to dominate the map if these vehicles are in the hands of any competent tank crews or pilots. All coming together to bring us some fun, fast-paced action that has been complemented by the recent maps that have been coming out since Season 5. Compared to everything else in the main game, I actually love the color palette to the map. Really contrasts the tan that is the backdrop. I like the feeling of street-to-street combat. Damn, I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel for praise. Okay, let's shit on it. Like I said earlier, I actually really liked this map when it first came out. Was my love for the map due to the fact that we waited 6 months for Season 6 to finish, and this was just simply new? Yes. Yes, it was. Yeah, coming off the heels of Redacted, this map had a lot to live up to. I don't think it will be controversial to say that Redacted is probably the best Metro-like map they have ever done in franchise history. Mind you, we're talking about the map alone, okay? Regardless of your opinions on 2042, I'm just asking you to leave those to the side real quick and just look at the map itself in a vacuum. It is definitely the best of these linear close quarter maps, with the only problem I would have personally is the fact that it's a 4-flag map and not a 5-flag map, with the 5th flag being here in the middle. So while yes, although this fucking season lasted 6 months, but at least I kept coming back to the game even after I finished the battle pass because I actually liked to play the map. It offers something the game didn't have until then. Turn off your brain fun every round. And the funny thing is that I normally don't even like these type of maps, and yet I love Redacted as much as I did. So of course, coming off the meh that was Reclaim and the greatness that was Redacted, Haven had a lot to live up to. And after they told us what their inspiration was for the map, what is there not to like? Well, for starters, for the fact that they don't really feel like a blend of those maps. The common denominator between these 3 maps is that they all have a sense of verticality and they're all urban maps. But the reason why all these maps succeed in their individual games was because their flow was not halted by the mere fact that there may be an individual in every window ready to gun you down. Erica Harbor buildings was a mix of both enclosed and open buildings with them being spread out. So even if you're being attacked by a dude in the building, you can just blow it up and now their position was exposed. Amiens was filled with tall buildings, but the only parts where you could be shot from were from the second floors on certain maps, where the rest of the buildings were just closed and acted as environment. Point being, you knew where you could be shot from at all times. And while I've only played Strike at Karkan in Battlefield 3 and in 2142, both versions of the map feature these buildings being spread apart from each other with large sections in between them. So once again, you always knew the potential location you can be shot from. Haven tries its best to appease every form of combat in the game, resulting in pleasing absolutely no one. The map is just a lot of reused assets from Erica Harbor and Portal, which, you know, normally I have absolutely nothing wrong with at all, and I wish we had gotten more maps in a different layout, but really, 6 months just for this? I'm not saying this map is horrible because it didn't bring a stylish brand new asset into the game, but to me, it's the placements of those assets on the map. They are placed right next to each other all over the place, causing the scenario where you can just look at this image and there's like 50 places you have the possibility of being shot from. The reason why Amiens works and this doesn't is because those parts where you can enter the buildings were usually far in between the parts of the buildings that just served as a static wall. Here, every building can be accessed on all 3 floors, the ground floor, second story, and the rooftops. It makes every spot a possible camping spot. Makes me feel like I'm playing Modern Warfare 2 again. Because of the map being made like this, playing in a main battle tank is fucking horrible. Not only do you already have to deal with all the countermeasures against the vehicles in the game, but you are now placed on a map that is actively working against you at all times of the round. Every corner is a possible ambush location for some dude to come up and put C5 on your tank. Any competent pilot can get away with most things in Haven, but doesn't mean they reign supreme on the map. They're still just as vulnerable as the tanks. On foot, combat feels like I'm playing a classic Shipment 24/7 playlist. Recently, they moved Haven into an infantry only playlist, and that actually works. The map actually plays better when it's strictly an infantry map. Haven is just a bunch of reused assets placed on a terrain with little to no thought put into it. In Conquest, it feels horrible. Breakthrough heavily favors the defenders as it's very easy to dig yourself in and fight off the incoming attackers. So as the final new map, knowing the inspirations for the map that I actually felt and seen, it just does not play well in practice, and a letdown of 6 months worth of hype. Stadium is our second map this season, and although initially being marketed as a brand new map, it was later given the correct designation of a revamped map. If it wasn't obvious enough, Stadium is just the A sector from the original Hourglass map. When Hourglass got reworked, many people were quick to question why wasn't Stadium included, which DICE would go on to explain that it just didn't fit well on the map since they had to design the new map to be playable on old gen consoles. So because of people refusal to upgrade, we were shit out of luck. But people petitioned for the map to be included back as its own infantry only map. And DICE actually liked the idea and never shot it down. And they decided to do it. And this is what they cooked up. When I heard we were going to get the Stadium, my mind went fucking wild. I thought they were finally going to clean up this fucking map. We'd get the full Stadium to play on, or at least just mirror the half that we already have that's not engulfed in sand. A vertical lockers with all different floors you'd get access to. And what we got was just a fucking parking lot. This right here is fucking funny to me. It's an exact visual representation of how the original Hourglass map played. Nothing but a desert and then civilization tucked to the side. A perfect example of 2042's map design language. Just wow. Why couldn't this have been released alongside the Hourglass remake? The parking lot does have new environmental clutter, but it's really just the same stuff we've seen on other maps. The inside of the stadium remains exactly the same apart from the addition of a new floor, which is a welcomed addition. But since it's just a brand new floor, it doesn't affect the original layout to the stadium. In a weird turn of events, I actually like the combat inside of the stadium. It's not a straight line, but it's like a banana. It has a curve to it, and because of that, I feel like it helps the constant tug of war feeling the stadium has to it. The bottom floors are a great addition, but they have limited point of entries, so there's no real flow in between the floors that would have made this an excellent part of the map. But the more I play, the more I get mad because I just wish the map was simply flipped to get the entire stadium experience. Now I know it's not as simple as just saying to flip the map and have that be it. While I know the insides of game development because it's something I wanted to get into, I'm not about to go on a whole spiel about shitting on devs because they're lazy, while I say how easy it is to do it using the Unreal Engine as my example. I understand that the Frostbite engine this time around is being held together with string, and doing one thing affects about 1,000 things negatively. But like, couldn't have you at least tried? Instead of giving us this months after you teased the idea? Damn, you teased this ages ago. I wonder what the comms tower on Breakaway would have looked like if you brought it back as its own map like you said you guys were planning. alongside the new maps and battle passes, we have gotten 3 new weapons, 1 new gadget, and 1 new vehicle. The AK-5C and the SCZ, they're both great additions to the AR and SMG category respectively. The AK-5C has now turned into my mainstay AR, but the SCZ is just whatever to me, to be honest. Not really my playstyle. Of course, the obvious thing that has surrounded these 2 weapons are the fact that they just come straight from Battlefield 4. In my honest reaction, oh well, because I did not give a shit whether or not they came straight from Battlefield 4. I always saw it as a complaint just for the sake of complaining. Like, okay, the real disappointment is the new DFR LMG, a gun that is new and is absolutely just fucking whatever. DICE has always had this weird mindset when making guns for this game. They have said multiple times that new weapons need to serve a purpose and provide a new experience compared to guns that came before it, that they won't be adding weapons just for the sake of padding the weapon count. So what purpose does the DFR serve? It's not to say the weapon is bad, it's very accurate from range and can be outfitted like an AR, but like put it along the ranks of other 2042 weapons and it doesn't do anything else that these already do. It just frustrates me because this just proves that they can release whatever weapons in the game, and their whole only adding weapons that serves a purpose was just bullshit. The new gadget this time around is the Straw, a new gadget that has been data mined since February of last year, and I'm going to be honest, it's alright. It's an okay launcher with okay damage on vehicles. It's not like you're gonna solo a tank, and thankfully you can't solo a tank with it. This just adds to the long list of things you can blow this up with. And now we get to the part of the season I have been waiting for years. A brand new aerial vehicle that's not a helicopter or a hover bike, but a new jet, a stealth bomber. And how is it, you may be asking? It's a fucking glass cannon. The Draugr has absolutely no countermeasures, no jammers, no flares, and can be taken down very easily by both ground and air targets. A Wildcat gets a lock on and you're dead by the time the missiles even hit your vehicle. The stealth bomber is very easy to take down if you're in a jet. Line up your sights, hold down the main weapon, and it will crumble within seconds. Lock on with their missiles, and it's over. Or shit, just use the radar guided missiles. You don't even need to lock on, just shoot and it will find the bomber and take it down. And the fun part, besides no countermeasures or no added health to accommodate the fact, is that if you get hit by a missile, well, hope you're in a good spot because it hinders maneuverability in all directions. So that's fun. But when the skies are clear and there's not a soul on the ground paying attention, the Draugr is extremely fun to use. Thanks to the Control Unlimited event, you are able to use this with everything unlocked, and you can have a great time with the bomber. But with the speed of the bomber, and especially during strafe runs, it just feels like it's constantly always going too fast for my liking, causing me to either pull out early in any of my strafe runs or too late, causing a crash because I don't really have control over the speed. I'm still gonna use it every chance I get because, well, I have to, because I don't want to keep bombing enemies with the EMP missiles, but actually putting the stealth in Stealth Bomber is actually really cool to see. It's not as broken as I thought it was going to be. It's going to be very easy to point them out if you're paying attention to the skies, but no matter what you do with this, it still can't beat the sound of the stealth helicopter bombs. We got 2 events this season, one starting at the very beginning of the season and the other at the end as a true send-off for the game. The first of the 2 events was called Crimson Front. The Thousand Petal Coalition are starting to take over South America, the same way the USSR built up the Iron Curtain. By the day, more and more countries' governments are toppled over and replaced by the revolutionists backed by a new banner. The event brings back a fan favorite game mode, Frontlines, a game of tug of war on the map as each side tries to push the enemy back to their base spawn. When then, they have the chance to destroy the enemy and comm stations. If the final attack is wasted, the team is pushed back out of the sector and the game of tug of war continues. A Battlefield 1 classic. And it's completely ass in 2042. Yeah, no matter how you try to spin the game mode for me, I just didn't have fun playing the game, and admittedly only played it to get the event rewards, which was a bunch of skins, and that's about it. The maps chosen just did not play well for the mode. Back in Battlefield 1, the mode came out with the first DLC, They Shall Not Pass, and it was made for those maps. I still remember having 4-hour-long matches of the mode when it first came out, and never got bored. Here, I just didn't want to play it. It just didn't feel right in 2042. And then we move on to the final event of the season. There has always been a debate whether or not Battlefield should have a competitive scene. Older fans of the franchise will remember a time when there was a competitive scene filled with passionate fans from around the world competing in online tournaments and LAN tournaments. The big reward for a majority of these teams was never the big cash prize if rarely it was there, but rather the big prize was just the confirmation of knowing what team was better. And that sense of competition has absolutely no place here in 2042. The mode is called Strike Team. 2 teams of 4 or 8 players battle it out on small close quarter maps, with the objective being to eliminate the enemy team or cap the objective once it's available. So think of Gunfight back in Modern Warfare 2019, but played with more players per team, with 1 life per person per round. And I honestly thought I was going to hate it, but in a surprising turn of events, I didn't. For the first couple of days of the game mode being live, I actually really enjoyed playing the game mode, as it was a nice change of pace from the norm of this game. Each round felt great, as most of the time it was just both teams going back and forth until someone won. The spice of the gameplay, the mode will have a couple of rounds where random weapons will be used by the entire server. Anything from a crossbow to an RPG would be selected. But after a while, I hated the game mode. Not only was it a slugfest to get your ribbons for the event skins, but as time went by, the real problem showed its face. And it was of course the problem with any game mode that introduces competitive gameplay when the core player base does not care. And it's that the player base did not care to play it at all. After a week, no one gave a shit to play the objective, constantly pushing to the enemy's position and just wasting a life. By the end of the event, it just felt like a 3v8 or a 1v8 because no one played the game mode like it was meant to be played. I've personally loved similar modes they've done in the past. I still think Shutdown is probably the perfect blend of competitive play and Battlefield mechanics woven together, but that's just me. The best 2042 event still remains to be the Battle of Nordvik back in Season 3. Everything else has either just fell flat in its face or straight up just not fun to play. And it's funny because here, out of all seasons, lore-wise, this is the most interesting that the game has ever been, because it's basically turning into another game. Since Season 3 of the game, we have been moving forward with the in-game lore, pushing the idea of the future. 2143. Yes, I know of the events that happened before and during 2042. Basically throws out how 2142 plays out. Europe doesn't exist. Everything has gone to shit. But over the course of the game seasons, there has been a narrative building that has been slowly leading up to a lot of familiar stuff we see in 2142. For starters, the Thousand Petal Coalition is just the predecessor of the Pan-Asian Coalition, a united alliance of countries that's against the ideas of European rule. And on the other side, we have been slowly moving towards Europe returning to its former glory, not because they can, but rather to go against the growing TPC threat. The game has recently been seeing TPC themed skins and EU skins that are heavily inspired by their 2142 counterparts. From the color scheming, armor, markings, the fact that the 2 faction logos are just clearly early versions of the factions we see in 2142, it shows that the devs really wanted that 2142 connection and were building their way towards it in the background. And I'm really sad that it's just now being left behind. The TPC skins are amazing, the European faction skins are equally as great, and of course McKay gets his 50th legendary skin. A lot of the new skins for weapons and vehicles are callbacks to equipment and gear we saw back in 2142. One of the damn weapon charms is a Battle Walker, a fucking Battle Walker from 2142. Everything to me is pointing that the presumably final season of the game, before they were told to close up shop, was going to be this game going out with a bang. We'd see them fully leaning into the future and making the strong connection leading to 2142, with the TPC and the EU going at it with all their new equipment, and I speculate the new vehicle would have been a Battle Walker. I just know if I were to have broken into DICE offices, I'd be able to find a rough prototype of the walkers themselves on some intern's desktop. But it just goes to be a perfect metaphoric send-off to Battlefield 2042. A game that had a lot of potential and never hit the mark. A game that fumbled every step of the way. Even when it did pull itself out, no one gave a shit to even look at, as the launch of the game still tainted those who felt betrayed that the mere idea of this game having a comeback was immediately shot down. And it will always be remembered by those who played it as the game that did all the right decisions at the absolute wrong fucking time. Battlefield 2042 is now over. We'll never know what Season 8 actually looked like. We'll never know what the Phantom program was building up to in this game, but we'll all remember this game as a giant disaster that easily could have been avoided. Season 7 Turning Red ends the quote-unquote great life service not with a bang, but with a soft whimper. A textbook reminder of how not to handle a Battlefield game. Okay, speculation time.